nothing! Absolutely nothing!
I'm going to give you an odd choice to make, a couple different ones actually. You can listen to his original video linked in the description, where it's played at normal speed. And or you can listen to it here at abnormal speed, because I'm going to speed up his entire video. And or you can skip both of that and just skip to the time index that will be showing up hopefully on screen. If not, it's in the description, to skip to when I talk about the content of his video. For this particular video, there's nothing that he says that I stop him to interrupt him about. His video is that bad. I have to address the entire video as a whole rather than stopping at significant points in the video. Oh yes, it's that bad. Spoilers, it's bad. But we'll get to that after this.
How do we identify a miracle? Method of testing, verification, etc. Miracles are by definition a metaphysical proposition that must be evaluated. The methodology of the scientific method shows us the occurrences and uniformity of nature. One's metaphysical presupposition is what decides one's stance on miracles. If the presupposition is God, then miracles are easily possible. If the presupposition is materialistic naturalism, then miracles are impossible since the laws of nature determine everything. If God is necessary for miracles, then it shows that if a miracle does occur, then God necessarily would be the source of that miracle. A miracle is an event that happens in which it is not dependent on the laws of physics, and leaves a message behind it, aka revelation by miracles. Also, a miracle could be seen as God working another way instead of using natural laws to fulfill his will. A miracle is not a repeatable event since it is not contingent upon the natural laws that govern the natural occurrences in the universe. It is possible to use induction like in history to determine whether a miracle can happen or has happened. History is not done by the scientific method, but rather based on inductive reasoning and the evaluation of historical sources. If the Big Bang is truly the beginning of all time, space, and matter, then by definition it is a miraculous occurrence. It has happened only once, but is the model based on induction and predictions. However, there is scientific evidence that fits with the Big Bang model based on repeatable events, like testing the second law of thermodynamics. If you have God as a metaphysical model of the universe, then predictions could essentially be miracles. For example, if we were to find free will that exists in the natural world, then we have a miracle since it's impossible for it to exist in the naturalistic, materialistic, deterministic universe in the framework of a naturalistic model. It comes down to what worldview or proposition best accounts for X, Y, or Z. If X is the Big Bang, Y as free will, and Z as the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth, then the God model best accounts for these events. It depends on the event and how well the inductive evidence for the claim is. Here's another methodology as well that can be used for detecting historical miracles. Two criteria are advanced by Michael Licona to identify a miracle. First, the event was extremely unlikely to have occurred given the circumstances or laws of nature. Second, it occurs within an environment or context charged with religious significance.
Our answer, if you can call it that, is it depends on what you presume. If you presume God, then it's possible that there's miracles, and if you don't presume God, then there are no miracles. That doesn't answer the question of how you identify a miracle event at all. How do you know when it's a miracle event if there's a God? Wouldn't everything be a miracle event then? Even if it does follow the laws of nature, since God is ultimately doing everything, making the word miracle pretty much meaningless? No, there's a definite distinction that he has between a miracle and a non-miracle event. Miracles are rare. They're non-repeatable events. And they fly in the face of our understanding of nature or something to that effect. But how do we determine that they fly in the face of nature? How do we know that they're not following some natural law that we simply do not know about? He references history and says, well, you can use induction on history. But can you when it comes to miracles? After all, other historical writings have miracle events written in them. For example, we've got good old Osiris here, who got cut up into pieces. This was his last resort. He was suffocating. He had no breathing. And then his pieces were returned together and he was alive again. So how do we know that that's a miracle event or a mythological event? It didn't really happen versus it did happen. It's historical. It's written in an old book or story. And so what's the methodology again? Oh, we weren't given one. Right. He just said you use induction to figure it out. Well, how? Like, could you go into detail maybe? Because there's other miracle events in history that if you pre-assume God could have also happened. So which ones happened and which ones didn't happen? How do you identify the miracle? And then we get this, which is, I guess, the closest we get to an actual methodology at all. The event was extremely unlikely to have occurred given the circumstances or laws of nature. Now, how do you figure that out? How do you deduce the probability that any given event is or is not unlikely to occur, and what circumstances have to do with any of that? And what if you don't know all the laws of nature? In fact, we don't know all the laws of nature, at least not as far as I know. I mean, I don't think that we can declare outright that we figured it all out yet. I suppose scientists are working on that, but I don't know that we know all the laws of nature. So in the past, when lightning was not understood to be a natural phenomenon, it was believed to be from the gods, and so was thunder, and so were many other natural occurrences. But now we understand the mechanisms involved, so they're not miraculous, they're natural. So the other part is that the event occurs within an environment or context charged with religious significance. Why would that matter? Why would it have to be charged with religious significance? Who determines that? What religious significance? According to whom? Any religious significance? What does that even mean? Why would it matter if it had anything to do with a religious significance or not? How do you even determine that? We got no answer for that either. And here we have a picture that perhaps is the example of the skeptic walking through as the water parts for him or her and saying fluke instead of miracle. Well, I don't think that we would say fluke. I think that we would want to know what the bleep is going on. I would want to understand how it was that the water was parting in this way that I've never seen before. I'd want to study the phenomenon. And, well, I'm not sure how I would go about doing so, but I certainly would document it in every way I could. If my only instrument was writing, then, well, I guess I'd have to make do with that. And if I'm the only one there, then I have to make do with that fact as well. But I would also recognize that no one's going to believe that this event occurred because it's never occurred before, and especially if it can't be duplicated again. Of course, he has a hat on, so we can't infer that there's a strong gust of wind pushing the waves aside. It could be that maybe there's very clear glass holding the waves in place and the water aside like this, but I'm not there to actually observe it, and in fact, nobody was there to observe it because this event didn't occur. Now, how can I say that it didn't occur with such assurance? I must have presuppositionalism towards naturalism to make that declaration. No, I don't. There could be a God, and there could be supernatural events, and this could be one of them. This could be a miraculous event, but could be does not equal is, and without any way to identify it, it could also be a natural event that is indeed a fluke. Even though I said that's not what the guy should say, because he would study it. He wouldn't just say it's a fluke. He would also study it, okay? But how do we know anything about this? Because it's just a story. Then we get the best part of his video. And by the best, I mean the opposite, of course. But these are the three things that are the miraculous events that make better sense under theism than they do naturalism. Big Bang is a miracle, he says. Even though there's a way to explain it, it's still a miracle event because it only happened once and is not repeatable and goes against what we would expect by the laws of nature, but it wasn't religiously charged event, so it wouldn't be a miracle according to the other. It doesn't matter. Free will would be a miracle Because there's no way to explain free will if everything is just the way it is, and there's no God, and there couldn't be free will, and it's inexplicable and unexplainable. So if you could actually prove free will, which nobody has yet, but that's okay, if you could prove free will, somehow that would mean there's a God. I don't know how, and also it would be a miracle that there's free will, because it somehow goes against everything else that we understood, but we would understand it if we could prove it, because we could then study it, which is what we do in science, but we wouldn't understand it fully, so then there would be room for the miracle bit, so we wedge God, miracle in there, whatever, however we... Anyways, Jesus comes back to life, there's your miracle. Even though other people came back to life as well. But Jesus is the main attraction, the main event. That guy coming back to life, that's a miracle. But the Big Bang is explained by science. The expansion of the universe is explained and understood. I don't know if there's free will or not. I have no idea. Maybe there's partial free will. Maybe there's no free will. I think that the neurologists and scientists and psychologists are still trying to figure that out, and I don't know that there's any good answer for it, one way or the other. I know it's a philosophical debate. I have no position on it. I think that the ability to do arbitrary actions is free will, but every arbitrary action I take is something that I thought about doing before I did it. So how does that work? I don't know the answer, and I don't know that it's free will, nor do I know that it's not free will either, and I don't see how it being either would be miraculous at all, since it's repeatable. If I have free will, then I can repeat it over and over again, making it a non-miracle. Also, it's not bound by religious significance, meaning that it doesn't fall with the other definition that was given of what a miracle is, so it doesn't really seem to fit that. Jesus coming back to life. Well, this has to be a miracle, right? Well, let's grant for a moment, even though there's really no reason to grant it, but we'll do it anyways, that Jesus died in the way that was said that he died. He's like super mega dead, for sure dead, and we've never seen somebody recover from that sort of death. That doesn't make it impossible, naturalistically speaking. Maybe he was in a very deep coma and they thought it was dead. Maybe when they stuck a spear in him, it went into somewhere that had water, like, I don't know. You would think it would be the lung, but even then, if there was a little bit of water in the lung, it could still be alive. Or maybe they thought it was water, but it was some other fluid. So could it be? Maybe. It's a very small amount of maybe there, but I don't have the body to examine, and so I don't know. But maybe he's Wolverine. Sure, why not? He's got advanced healing factor like Wolverine had. Now, Wolverine's fictional too, but who cares? Now, was that event a religiously significant thing? Well, later it was, but at the time, was him dying that significant? Like, only later did they realize that it was significant. So how does that work again? Oh, well. But you have to believe the story actually happened to think that this is an actual event that then can only be explained by God, even though there could be, as small and remote as the possibility might indeed be, that it was a natural event. How would we know? Well, we wouldn't know, because there was no way to define or explain when a miracle happened, other than just assert that miracles can happen if there's a God. But there could be a God that's a naturalistic God that doesn't permit miracles to happen. What about that idea? We're going to ignore that one. And so the conclusion is that either they happen or they don't based on your pre-assumptions, and there's really no answer given for how to identify them. That's it. There wasn't. It wasn't in the video. Did I miss it? Let me know if I missed it, because I listened to the whole thing. I didn't interrupt him at all. And he doesn't give a methodology. Like, not at all. Like, he came close, kind of, but it wasn't really a methodology at the end. Because there was more questions to be had. How do we test any of these ideas? It's all based on your presuppositions? Who cares about that? Tell me how to test it! How do I identify it? How do I know when it's a miracle event that I'm seeing versus it's a mundane event? Especially if it only happens once, it's non-repeatable, and defies all that we know about the laws of nature, but my limited knowledge of the laws of nature would mean that I could see a natural event and think it's not natural and be mistaken about it, so I need a system which he didn't provide. Which is what I predicted last video. And I was right. This is starting to hurt my brain. Oh well, look forward to part 5 when I'm pretty sure we won't get an answer there either. Could be wrong. Maybe we'll get a yes or no answer. The question is pretty much a binary answer, and I'm hoping he says yes, because the answer is yes. So we'll see though. But we'll look forward to that, and just leave your comment on this, and tell me if I'm wrong. Did he actually give a methodology and I missed it? I mean, did he? I don't know.